Hey guys! So today you and I are going to talk about engineering managers. So let's get into it. So the question in question was, hi Frederick, when your software engineering manager says let's avoid discussing tactical issues in a one-on-one meeting, what does that mean? Well, it of course depends a little bit on. I mean, if you're talking about a specific individual, it's not so straightforward for me to say why exactly, but I can give you sort of what I suspect is going on. So, for those of you who haven't heard this term, tacticals or being tactical about an issue or so forth is usually something we use to refer to either that you have to make a compromise somewhere, which is usually for a lot of software developers translated into you're going to have to hack something together in order to do something short term because you have to ship things quickly. But it can also be related to your career. And that's what I'm suspecting is going on now, because of course the manager in question can be referring to that you have a lot of bugs and issues related to the code, but the idea behind a one-on-one meeting is that it should be for your benefit. Usually it's something where you and your manager has some time to go through things, look at your personal development, etc., etc. It depends a little bit on the manager, but it can also be questions around, you can refer to tactical issues such as, well, your career ladder, your personal progression, and so forth. But I suspect that this is more a question of that when you talk with your manager in these one-on-ones, you're usually just discussing things that are going on in the code base, and that's not really necessarily the intention of the one-on-one meeting per se. It can absolutely be, because it depends on, of course, what your manager has thought about, or what ideas the manager has for you and for the general career progression that you're going to do within the company. Uh, and this is something that is good to know for you guys, is that your career strategy and so forth should ideally not just come from the manager, because the thing that this manager is probably trying to figure out is, all right, how am I going to deal with you, and how am I going to give you the support that you need to do the things that you want to do. And the basic idea of the one-on-one is literally that it's a coaching session, or it's a way for you to have some time to talk to your manager about what are next steps for you, how can you improve, can you if you get any feedback, this is usually the meeting that you get it in, and so forth and so forth. So the reason why I tell people usually that it's a good idea for you to have an idea of where you want to take your career is because if you leave that up to the one-on-one meetings, depending on the manager, you might not actually get anything from the one-on-one meetings, and you might not actually do much in terms of career progression. It's very similar to how I like to tell people who are in school and so forth, that it doesn't really matter if you have a good or bad teacher, or rather, you're lucky if you have a good teacher, but even if you have a bad one, the job of the teacher is not necessarily to give you your dreams or to give you your future career or so forth. They're there to provide a service to you, and if you want to be a responsible student, you have to figure out what it is that you want so that you can direct your own path forward. And a one-on-one meeting is the sort of coaching meeting where such things usually happens. Now, I personally think that, as I said, you shouldn't just let that be on the manager's side, because the manager is a different person from you and cannot possibly know what you desire with your career and what you want, where you want to take things. But what they can do, if they're good at what they do, is to help you make things concrete or provide options for you. So if you come into a one-on-one meeting, I suggest that rather than just discussing tactical issues with the code, take the chance to take this meeting more as a way for you to rubber duck a little bit about your ideas of where you want to take your next step and how you can improve, or how you can rise within the ranks of your company or something like that. To give you a concrete example of this in action is when I've talked to like my manager, for example. He's been, of course, thinking about what would be a good fit for the next thing that I'm supposed to do. And in his mind, he thinks that, it would be great if I went into more of a management role. But I've also told him that no, actually, I don't want to let go of the coding, uh, because I enjoy coding to the point where it's not something that I ever want to get rid of. But at the same time, of course, I am well aware of that puts me in a position where growth becomes difficult, because once you reach a certain point, it's difficult for you to, well, at least within the same company, find more technical challenges that will evolve you, because when you get to the higher levels of proficiency within your field, it becomes very easy to learn very quickly. It becomes very easy to sort of exhaust a place of work in terms of technical development. And so that puts my manager in a bit of a difficult position, in essence, because he has, of course, realized that, well, it's going to be difficult to give Frederick like a new team, or put him in a technical challenge when because the idea is, of course, guys, that these are mutual benefits. Like, the manager wants to put you in a position within the company where you can grow, but it also has to benefit the company. So a good manager won't just say, hey, here is some Udemy courses, go and learn a bit of Rust or Python or something like that. They're going to try to fit you into some type of role where you get real hands-on experience. Now, as I said, my manager's idea of that is to basically put me on the manager path and make me into a manager, but I don't want that. So now, as a responsible student or a responsible employee, I have to have an idea of, okay, how can I ask for help here? How can my manager assist me with this? And that's the thing that I usually try to take in the one-on-one meetings. So for my concrete example, it would be where I've said to my manager that, well, I've identified that my technical skills is at a pretty decent level now, and I've also identified that in this company you don't really have any projects that would challenge me in a technology way, apart from maybe me switching from engineering work to maybe just doing DevOps or something like that. But that's not something that my manager really wants, because I'm doing well with the coding, and that's sort of the situation, right? Because I have to basically switch career paths if I want to do that more full time. So what I tell my manager is that, okay, but is there some way for you to give me responsibilities within, say, hiring or dealing with contracts, or actually having, not just managing teams and taking care of the tech lead role and the architect's role and so forth, but actually own the contracts and hire new people and put up budgets and so forth for the company. And the reason why I want that is because the company in question is going through that sort of transition where it's trying to hire more people, staff up teams and so forth, so they need a lot of help with that. And that can create a very symbiotic relationship for me and my managers. It can create a path forward, because the company needs the help. I will learn something new and develop from it, and I will further my understanding of software as a field. That's the sort of ideas that you should bring to the table into these one-on-one meetings, where you have had a thought about what's going on in the company, what things could I get involved in so that I grow as a software developer. Because discussing just bugs and tactical issues and so forth it's great if you have to talk about those things, but you shouldn't treat the one-on-one meeting as some type of debriefing with your manager, where all you do is talk about, well, we have these bugs, these things are going on, etc., etc. Because ideally you should use this time, as I said, to be a good student and come with some suggestions of things that you want in order to further your career. So what I want you to take away from this is that I suggest that you treat the one-on-one meetings less as a way of just reporting what's going on and bugs and things like that, and more as a way to have a coaching session with your manager. It's a little bit like a life coach. If you have a good manager, they will have some ideas of what you can do, how you can improve, things like that. My manager is pretty good, so he of course has some ideas of, oh, Frederick should be learning this and that. I think that would really develop his career further. But at the same time, you don't want to just leave that to your your manager, because as I said with the teacher, your teacher is not going to be there forever. They're here to teach you something, and if you don't have any idea of what you want to learn in order to become the thing that you want to become, it becomes very difficult for somebody else to help you, and you should really not leave that up to chance, because you might find out that their idea of what you should be doing in the future might be very different from what you actually want. And so what I do with my manager is I say, well, I like my coding, for example. My manager wants to make me into a manager, and I go, yeah, I can do management work. I can, because there are some hard skills that I need from experiences from being an engineering manager that would be very beneficial to my career, but I don't want to go all in, and I don't want to do it full time. So maybe we can discuss how can I do my coding and still do that part and help out with the sort of things that a engineering manager, for example, does. And now we have a dialogue all of a sudden. I have some requirements, he has some ideas of how to do it, and we try to find a way where I can learn these things or get experience with them, but it should also benefit the company at the same time. And if you do this and you have the right company, you can actually develop your career quite a bit. And in some companies you realize that actually there is really no more way for me to, like, the company is not in a good structure for me to do certain things right now, as I was saying with, say, DevOps. So you might have to either go to another company if that is what you really, really want, or you might have to look at other alternatives of skill progression that you can take on within that organization that company actually needs. Have a great day.